Welcome back. It's your boy Draft Raw coming to you with another one. And in this video, we're going to talk about the edge rushers of the 2020 NFL Draft. Unfortunately, I've said in previous videos, I'm not able to be in the studio, obviously, because of the coronavirus, COVID-19. I really wanted to do this edge rushing video in the studio. Edge rushers is one of my more favorite positions that I love. I mean, I absolutely love to study. I probably study more edge rushers than any other position besides wide receiver. So I really wanted to make this a great video because I have a lot of names to talk about and a lot of guys we got to get through. But unfortunately, I can't. But we're still going to get through this. So let's just get started. With the first name, let's talk about with the edge rushers. Let's talk about Chase Young. I mean, he's the top guy. He's the consensus top guy. He's probably the number 2 pick in the draft to the Washington Redskins, Chase Young. Chase Young is pretty much, he has been advertised. When I first put on the tape, and actually, to be honest with you, I literally only watched one game when it came to the tape. I've seen him play beforehand. I mean, this guy, he's got everything that you want in a pass rusher. He's got every single thing that, for a person that you draft him, he's going to get sacks. He's coming from the long lineage of the Ohio State pass rushers that have come out recently, being, you know, like the Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa, and now you have Chase Young, and he may be the better athletic prospect. He may not be the better technician than both guys. And actually, to be honest with you, you know, Nick and Joey I always thought were really good technicians, which make them really good pass rushers. With Chase, he doesn't have to be a great technician. He can just use his natural athleticism to be a great pass rusher. If there's one little like caveat to his game or just little nick to his game, it will be, you know, against the run. But it's not so much to a point where he can't play against the run. It ain't like he can't hold his own. It's just that, you know, obviously every player coming out in the draft and every player in the NFL has a little nick to them that they're not as good at when it comes to a certain thing. You know, you can name anybody. You know, when you really look at it, everybody has little nicks to their game that doesn't make them a perfect player. And that's what makes, you know, the NFL game human. That's what makes sports more human, is that, you know, obviously these athletes that are getting paid a lot of money, but they're not perfect. So if that's one little nick, it'll be that. But overall, Chase Young is the number 1 prospect. We already know this. I mean, it's there. So, let's really get into more of the list that I really just named some guys. Chase Young, I didn't have to write nothing about. I already had it in my mind where he was at. So I had to write about some of these other guys, though. So let's get into it. Let's go with K'Lavon Chaisson. If I'm looking at my notes here. And I studied K'Lavon like 2 months ago. So, you know, this is literally right after the championship game. So this is just what I saw. He has a good motor. He drops in coverage half the time, and he actually does it pretty well. In terms of, you can see the natural bend and athleticism when it comes to actually dropping in coverage. His hips move well, his feet move well. So him, you know, being coverage, you know, he brings that extra little flair to him that he, you know, when people are looking at edge guys, they're looking at more of a pass rushing guys, and he's a guy that can drop in coverage as well. To me, though, he is a designated type of pass rusher type of player. I don't think that he's a guy that you would look at as to be a starter within his first year in the NFL. I think that he's the type of player that you have to start him in, like, kind of just put him out there on third downs and see what he can do. Whether it's dropping back in coverage or rushing the passer, that's what he needs to do. And last but not least, he's just really fast. I mean, those are the main things that I saw from him. You know, it's not as detailed as I wanted it to be because I was going through a bunch of different pass rushers, and obviously at the time he wasn't on media boards. He wasn't the biggest name. You know, he was kind of like maybe the 6th or 7th best edge guy that they had. They had other guys that we're going to talk about, but that's what I pretty much wrote down for him. I never went back to watching this tape because I felt as though what I wrote was what I wrote, and that's what he is. So looking at what I have for him, I don't I personally don't think that he is a top 10 pick or even a top 20 pick. I think that he's a late first round type of guy because of the natural athleticism and bend that he does have. And he did show in the championship game that he is a pretty solid pass rusher in his own right. And the simple fact is that he can drop in coverage as well. Give a team the chance that, you know, any team could draft him, whether they play a 3-4 or 4-3. He's the type of guy that you could put on your team. And he's a guy that could play both defensive end or linebacker, wherever you want to put him, whatever scheme that you run. So then let's go to Curtis Weaver. Curtis Weaver is another guy. It's a name that I didn't write anything for because I already had my preconceived notions about him. But I did watch some tape a little bit later. So the first tape I saw was the Florida State tape. And the Florida State tape, this guy, he was an absolute beast in that game. You know, obviously not every play he's going to make some huge impact. But when he needed to make an impact, he made an impact. I felt as though as I watched some other tapes, I come to find out he was actually hurt a little bit, which is the reason why he didn't really explode as much as he probably should. And to be honest with you, if he didn't get hurt, there's a chance that he could have been the nation leader in sacks and maybe even break into that 20 range, to be honest with you, because he's a natural pass rusher in terms of his technique is actually pretty darn good. He knows how to use his hands, whether he's bull rushing, whether he's using a bit of a speed rush and, you know, a swim move or even a rip move. He knows what he's doing. He's a grab cloth guy and, you know, throw guys out the way type of pass rusher. He also, you see him in his speed rush or even in his bull rush, he kind of can stiff a guy with one arm and get around a tackle. And that's something that is very coveted within the NFL because not a lot of guys can actually do that. And the simple fact that he can't. Now, the biggest thing about him is that he needs to lose weight. That's going to be one of the bigger things is him losing weight will help him as a pass rusher, period. I think he's around like 265, maybe he's 270. If he gets around 250 range, I think that he can be more explosive than what he actually is. Now, he's not going to be this superb athlete in terms of what we see with like a Caleb Von Chason. But what he does bring, and excuse me about the phone, but what he does bring is he brings a natural strength and he brings a natural, just like I said, a pass rushing ability that you really can't teach as much. And the simple fact, I mean, you can teach it, but the simple fact is that he already knows it and he's in college makes him a greater prospect than some other edge rushers in this draft. So, and just to put this caveat, I'm not going in order of where I have these guys ranked. I will do a video about that. And also, I talked about the studio earlier. I will try to get back into the studio even during this coronavirus crisis. So we'll see what happens with that. So anyway, let's try to really get through this because I know this video is going to be long because I got a bunch of names, but we're going to get through this. So let's get to the nitty gritty. First name on the list after those, Zack Baun. Zack Baun is a fast, quick, aggressive athlete. He tries different pass rushing moves. I saw him using swims and rips and, you know, just hand fighting. I saw him do a lot of that different types of stuff, even a spin. I saw him use a lot of different types of moves to try to get to the quarterback, and he wasn't just stuck on a speed rush or a bull rush or whatever. He has loads of potential because of that, but the problem with him is that he is a smaller guy. He may need to be just a straight-up linebacker and not an edge guy. But he played edge in college, so I have to, write him as that. And he can get washed or stonewall, and that just basically means in a running game you can kind of push him out of the way. And in the pass game, he can get to a point where he just gets stonewalled and he doesn't move anywhere. So that's one of the little cons about him. But I will say that Zack Baun is a very exciting athlete or very exciting player to watch on tape. Then we're going to go to Yetur Gross-Matos. I didn't know what to think about him because I heard about him a little bit before he started getting some traction now. But I can tell you this. He's a very strong guy. He can rush from the inside. So on third downs, I would actually put him at defensive tackle to rush the passer. And he just needs some polishing. I think that he's got the athletic skills in terms of he's got the length, he's got the weight, the height, just the natural athleticism. But the biggest problem is that the athleticism doesn't translate all the way. Like, he's not super fast, so he's not like a crazy fast guy. He's not like a crazy bendy guy like a Caleb Von Chason. But he still brings a natural thing that you see in pass rushers. He looks like what you see the Bosa twins look. I mean, not twins. The Bosa brothers look like. He looks like one of those type of guys. He's got 35-inch arms, which most tackles in the league got 34-inch arms. So that's a little bit of advantage. He's got, like I say, he's got pretty good quickness of speed. It's not great, but it's there, and he's definitely very, very strong. So he brings something to the table that some of these guys don't. But the problem is that you just hope that at least at some point the size or athleticism finally matches the production. So he's one of those guys that could be a boom or bust player, but if he booms, he could really, really boom. Then we're going to look at Bradley Anae. I just thought he was a straight designated pass rusher. I didn't think nothing of him other than that. He needs to improve his tackling, and he's not good against the run. I think that's what he's going to be in the NFL. I think he's just going to be just a straight-up pass rusher. I don't know if he's going to actually develop into a starter. I think that, like I said, from what he showed at the Senior Bowl and what he actually shown on tape, you know, he is who he is, and that's just who he's going to be. I expect him to possibly get drafted in like the 3rd or 4th round. He didn't test well at the combine, so that's another little caveat about him, that it's just kind of, it's a little con, a little nick that it's going to hurt him in the draft process just a little bit. But overall, you know, with Bradley Anae, you know, like I said, when it just comes down to, you're not going to get much else from him but just being a pass rusher. Jonathan Granard from Florida plays with energy, good hand usage, good, not great strength. So he's not super strong like Yetur Gross-Matos, but he still has good enough strength, and he's got a really good first step. His first step is actually, more surprisingly, is better than what you would think he is because of his size and his not athletic play. Like, he's not as athletic as most pass rushers, which is the reason it explains his production in college. But he still had a good first step, which carried him, and why he's one of the higher names that I'm talking about. You know, as I'm going down the list, like I said, there's a lot of names, but he's one of those guys that's name is a little bit higher than a lot of the other guys because he was because of what he brought to the table. And he may not be one of those all-pro type of pass rushers, anything like that, but he's going to be a good, solid player within the NFL. So then we're going to get to some guys that, you know, it's like here, there. I think that they can be a second round, but I think most of these other guys are like 3rd round type of prospects. Some of them have athleticism, some of them don't have greatest athleticism, but a lot of these guys are more of designated pass rushers or guys that have a little nicks to them that can really deter them from becoming pretty good pass rushers within the NFL. So the first person we're going to talk about is Josh Uche from Michigan. He's athletic, he's got energy. Willing rusher, but more of an off-the-ball linebacker that should only rush on 3rd downs. He drops in coverage well, and he's got a good initial punch. I think that he's the guy that, to me, is the most underrated pass edge guy out of a lot of these guys on this list, because he doesn't have the size to really play it. He should more, like I said, he should be more of an off-the-ball linebacker, or just a regular linebacker, not a 3-4 outside line, just a regular linebacker that just rush the passer on 3rd down. But I think that he may have a chance to be a starter and be good because he does have some strength that, when I said that good initial punch, he does have some strength that does show up on tape, where you do see him bull rush players for being just a 240-pound guy. I mean, he's literally giving up probably 80 pounds, 70, 80 pounds of weight to these guys, and he's knocking them back a little bit. So it's, you know, it's one of those things where Josh Uche may become a better player within the NFL than he is in college, but he's one of those chess piece guys that if he goes to a team that knows how to use him, or that uses a defense that doesn't really have a specific role for literally each position. Anybody can kind of do anything in terms of who they are. So a safety could be a linebacker, or a linebacker can kind of be an edge rusher, or just rush the passer period and stuff like that. He's one of those type of guys. He's a chess piece. Then we're going to go to Kenny Williker from Michigan State. Good speed, good initial punch, inside move, killer. But he usually only uses a bull rush and a speed rush. You don't see a lot of the hand fight. You don't see a lot of swims and rips and all that type of stuff. You don't see a lot of that, or even a spin. You don't see anything else except for speed rush and bull rush. But he shows good initial speed and punch. So that's going to really work for him within the NFL. He's not as athletic, but it's something that can work. Alton Robinson from Syracuse and then is a natural 4-3 end. He needs to learn more pass rushing moves, but he is good against the run. So he's a guy that could get a chance to be out there and play because he is good against the run. He's one of those guys where, let's say you have a pass rusher on your team that's like a great pass rusher but not great against the run. Alton Robinson can be the guy that you put out there where you think it's going to be run plays, and he's going to be able to hold his own and stack and be able to not be moved and be a good run defender, and then you can switch him out and bring in the true pass rusher. So that's how that will work for Alton Robinson. That's what he is. Then next we're going to go with Jason Strowbridge from, I believe, North Carolina. He takes on double teams a lot, and he doesn't get pushed around. There wasn't a lot of production that he had. I believe he played a little bit of like an inside and outside. I can't remember it wholeheartedly exactly. Like I said, I did these 2 months ago, I did a lot of these edge rushers. So sometimes, I may forget some of these guys or what I watched, but just what I just wrote down. But just remembering a little bit, knowing that he didn't get pushed around, is one of those things where he can be a solid defensive end, just like an Alton Robinson that can just hold his own in the run game. Then Jabari Zuniga from Florida, the other Florida pass rusher next to Jonathan Granard. Relentless. Just absolutely relentless, and he played inside and outside. There wasn't anything where he's got some athleticism, but maybe it was just his initial quickness, or maybe it was something about him that he just wasn't getting to the quarterback often. As often as he probably should be in terms of his size and weight and speed and all of that. But he showed relentlessness and that motor, and that's what you could really, really like about Jabari. And if you get him, maybe a team could mold him into being a better player than what he is right now. Then we're going to look at Alex Highsmith from Charlotte University, or University of Charlotte. I'm not sure what it's called, but a small school. He's a quick, high-effort guy, but he needs to add more weight and strength. I think he shows just natural pass rushing ability, but he doesn't show pass rushing ability in terms of adding some strength into his pass rush. It's just mostly speed rushing. Maybe he can get away with that, but he may not be able to get away with that. So it's one of those things. We'll see what happens with him. Then we're going to look at Marlon Davidson. I'm going to just say this real quick. I'm not going to go so much into him. He reminded me of Courtney Upshaw. He's the type of guy that I know he's a guy that played inside and out, but he's that type of guy that can play a defensive tackle or a defensive end. So it's one of those things where I think that his athleticism could hinder him like a Courtney Upshaw, but at the same time, maybe he loses a little bit of weight and maybe he can be a defensive end. But I think that he's more of an inside guy, like what Courtney Upshaw ended up doing near the end of his career. He was more of a defensive tackle. But that's all what I saw from him. So he wasn't greatly athletic. He just had some strength, and he had some ability to where he could do something in this league. But it may not be to one of those high points of being like one of those, just a great player or Pro Bowler or anything like that. Julian Okwara is that one guy like a Josh Uche, but he is a straight up pass rusher. Like he just goes, he's a speed rusher. He just needs to add more strength. He's a guy that should have more sacks as well, but he just doesn't have the strength to play the position yet. So he's one of those guys where you give him a year, you get him in the weight room, and you get him stronger, and then maybe he actually turns into something really, really well. He has a chance to be a great pass rusher in this league, and honestly becoming one of those all-pro, Pro Bowl type of guys as well. So now, we're going to talk about some other names. Some guys that were some small school guys that I wrote down, whether I liked them or didn't like them. I just wanted to write down some more guys that, if you're watching this, you can see it and say, okay, well, maybe my team, if we don't get one of these pass rushers, maybe we can get one of these small school guys in the later rounds that can turn out to be something. So let's start with Jesse Luminaire. Jesse Luminaire played at Liberty. This is what I wrote. Now hold your this is what I wrote. Small school beast. Absolutely beast. Translates speed to power. That's being able to translate his get off to then jolting the guy and putting power into it. Something that Josh Uche from Michigan does a lot. Very productive for, third down type of specialist. When it comes third down, this guy really goes. Because when he goes, he has one of the greatest bursts and amazing get-offs that I've seen in this draft. And then he's a high-energy guy, which I love high-energy guys on defense. And he's surprisingly strong. But let's go back to that amazing burst. That get-off is just absolutely crazy. I saw a couple of plays, and I'm like, wow, he's pretty good. And then it was just one play where he got off, and the center didn't snap the ball yet, but he wasn't offsides. And when the center snapped the ball, no tackle in the world would have been able to block him. He was gone, and he hit that quarterback. This guy, I'm going to just say this, he may be the biggest edge sleeper in this draft class. Jesse Luminaire from Liberty may be the biggest sleeper in this draft class. I really loved his tape. Then we're going to go on, I don't want to talk about too much, so we're going to go on to the next guy. But Derek Tuska, I don't know how to say his name as well. Hard nose, uses hands well, more of a speed rusher. I thought I would see a little bit more from him, and I was a little bit disappointed that he wasn't as great of a pass rusher as what I had just saw with Jesse. But, he's a pretty solid guy. He can maybe turn into something, but he's one of those kind of like practice squad guys that may turn into a roster type of guy that may be like a backup defensive end, and he may be a solid backup defensive end that give you something, one of those type of players. So, that's all I got to say about him. Sorry. Next, we're going to go to Ladarius Hamilton from North Texas. Can dip for speed rush. This guy can bend. He can dip. A dip is when you drop your shoulder when a tackle's trying to put his hands on you. Instead of him putting his hands on you, you drop your shoulder and you still keep the same speed that you have. Guys like Chase Young can do that. Guys, Von Miller's the prototype for that. He does that all day. Clavon Chason, which is the reason why he's considered the second edge rusher a lot of times by these media scouts, he can also do that. Ladarius Hamilton can do that. He has a really strong bull rush. He uses hands well, especially when he goes inside. And he's a relentless. I mean, the guy just kept going. Even when he got stonewalled, you can see the energy in him. You can see he just wanted to keep going. And that's what I like about him. He's a really, really good player. Another guy that can be a really, really good sleeper for a later round pick, too. Just like a Jesse Luminor. Then we're going to go to Chauncey Rivers from Arkansas. I believe it was Arkansas. Good motor. Good burst. Not a lot of production, though, but he was good versus the run. So it's one of those things where he's a guy that, you're going to still get a good, solid edge guy when it comes to him. You may not get that great edge rusher that, everybody coveted to look for, but you're going to get a good, solid one. So that's what I looked at when I saw him. His motor is going to be the one thing that's going to always put him on the team because he never stops. He always has a motor. A running back is running downfield. He's running downfield trying to stop him, no matter what. So that's what you can like about him, is that he's a hard-working type of guy. And then last but not least, Trevis Gibson. I didn't like his tape too much, but I just wanted to put him out there. From end, he has a killer inside. He has killer inside quickness. Sometimes he rushed on the inside, and sometimes he rushed as an end. And he had he could go shoot a gap really, really quickly. But outside speed rush was non-existent, and he can't shed in the run game. I just wanted to put his name out there to just say, how many guys I did watch. But I didn't like his tape as much, and I was expecting a tape that was like really, really good. Just like even a Derek. I didn't expect nothing from Ladarius or Jesse, but I expected something from those other two in terms of in terms of Derek and Trevis, and I didn't get what I wanted. And then with Chauncey, I Not that I expected would, but he was like right in the middle of all of them. Like his tape wasn't bad, but it wasn't great neither. So it is what it is. But anyway, that was the last name on my list. Please comment. I would love to chat with you guys. Please hit that like button. Please share this video. And if this is your first time you watching me and you like what I had to bring to the table, please hit that subscribe button and please hit that notification button. Once again, this is Draft Raw Authentic. Not Draft Raw Authentic. This is Draft Raw signing off. Goodbye.